Alright, so welcome back everyone to our Lostbelt 3 English reading and all that whatnot. When last we left off, we had just learned that the first emperor, Shi Huangdi, turns out that he is the giant floating thing that we had seen in earlier sections. He had completely transformed his body and had become immortal by doing so, and that is why he has lived for over 2,200 years in this Lostbelt. So let's see how we deal with that in Section 7 and beyond. Lostbelt 3, Section 7, The First Emperor.
Achieving immortality? Oh dear, I never thought it'd be something like that.
Oh.
By retrieving Neja's remains from ruins of the Yin dynasty, he was able to achieve modern-age cybernetic technology, a technological revolution during the BC era. Of course, all forms of technology systems would be overturned from their very foundations.
In short, he abandoned his aspirations of becoming a Genren and obtained immortality through another method. A Genren? The truth of the undying that occurs within Taoism, basically a sage. You could say that they have obtained the ultimate perfection of imperishable flesh for their bodies. The Shi Huangdi of pan-human history was said to have sought becoming a Genren by purifying a medicine of immortality through a type of alchemy centered on elixirs of life.
As a result, he lost his life to mercury poisoning. Whichever country it was, this was always an accumulating heap of failure in alchemy. But for this Lostbelt's emperor, he has abandoned the elixir alchemy and dived toward the technology of Neja's origins.
Well, Neja is the product of Taoism, and though it wasn't a great diversion from his original goals, he did not obtain undying flesh, but rather made a critical choice of extending his mind by mechanizing his body.
And thus he remains in his prime of power and authority, and by maintaining his empire by eliminating all political turmoils in China. Of course the surrounding nations would feel intimidated.
I can't side with him as a magus, but isn't it great that he's someone reasonable? Indeed. This is an unexpected development. Who would have thought that the Lostbelt's ruler would dispute with the Cryptor and initiate negotiations with us? However, the conditions being analysis on the shadow border. What do you think?
There's certainly a risk, no doubt. The ruling powers of the previous Lostbelts hadn't provided us an option of imaginary numbers diving. In the last two Lostbelts we had observed, both Russia and Scandinavia gave off the impression of being troubled by internal problems, but this China is different.
Right. We can understand that the Qin Empire had once conquered all territories on Earth, only being cut off by the Storm Wall later. As our pan-human history was being whitened out, they grasped their unprecedented situation as a disaster.
I wonder how the members of the Qin Empire would feel if they saw the empty, white-papered Earth.
Probably be a bit angry.
Yep, and that's the most important part. There are numerous Lostbelts, but there is only one Earth. If so, then what lies ahead is a game of musical chairs with your lives at stake. There's no sense for different human histories to be able to coexist with each other. It'll no longer be a parallel world for both sides, but a fight to defend one's right on this planet. That's why for the remaining Lostbelts that have no restraint on survival and room for growth, eventually they will clash with each other as they try and expand.
Speaking of which, Kirshtaria too. Back in Scandinavia, he said that their fantasy trees will face off against each other.
Cryptors. No. While everyone in Team A is the enemy of pan-human history, they're also competing internally. Why did Kirshtaria-san make such a cruel decision?
Holmes says whatever the reason may be, it's time to put the conversation on hold for now. As for now, there's little evidence to speculate any further. He says it's likely that we'll have to face off against other Lostbelts in the future. But even though the pan-human history is lost, it still has an advantage the Lostbelts lack. The Shadow Border, which can still do imaginary numbers diving. As long as you have the border, you can move to other Lostbelts, huh? I see, so this Shi Huangdi is pretty amazing. He actually thought that far ahead. Ah, this is under the premise that the Chinese Lostbelt had unified all nations.
Then when Shi Huangdi leaves this Lostbelt, his enemies wouldn't be Koldia, but the other Lostbelts. Could this not be a chance for us to fish up benefits by having them mutually defeat each other?
No, the biggest concern for us is having to share our Shadow Border's technology. And giving the massive advantage to the Qin Empire in the Lostbelt territory competition could allow them to secure victory.
When that happens, we would have created a bigger threat in the reformation of pan-human history. I guess we can only tell how things will turn out until we open the lid, though.
You're saying that no matter how things turn out, there's a risk involved.
Holmes goes on by adding that even when the Lostbelts clash with each other, there's no guarantee that Koldia will come out unscathed. He says even so, at the time being, that's far off in the future, and our main concern now is getting the antidote for ourselves and Gordolf. Gordolf naturally agrees with him. And Munier goes on to wonder if everything will go well if we get Koyanskaya through the exchange of information agreement with Shi Huangdi. It is indeed a momentary relief, but far from being a solution. The problem of how we're going to sell this Chinese Lostbelt is what's hit a standstill to its resolution.
And again, we can't locate the fantasy tree, right?
That's right, and it was beyond my expectations for Shi Huangdi to not have grasped the existence of the fantasy tree. Da Vinci adds that Akta Hinoko's actions have also been rather strange. As a cryptor, she should be desperately protecting the fantasy tree. Holmes agrees and says furthermore, Kadok and Ophelia have shown active intents to expand their Lostbelts whilst allying with their respective kings. But here in this China, Hinako appears as more of a bother to Shi Huangdi's proactive conquest. Her eyes were bloodshot with regards to exterminating Koldia, though.
I suppose so. If I had to say, she seemed more intent on wiping us out before Shi Huangdi turned his gaze towards venturing outside.
Whether she's proactive or unmotivated, we don't quite know.
I wonder if it's okay for us to have this conversation in the Shadow Border.
Can't Shi Huangdi observe everything in his territory? I suppose. Being observed perpetually from satellite orbit is pretty unsettling, but if you think about it in reverse, that's possibly the extent of the voyeurism. Something like heat detection within a space is a given, but for sounds, it's as you said. Their side can't hear so long as we don't raise our voices outside. Earlier, I tested it out by thoroughly throwing out cusses in the cockpit. Ahem.
All Da Vinci, throwing out the hard cusses like heck and frick.
I do recall her faintly bad-mouthing him with stuff like Retromania, 80s generation, and Cyberpunk.
To move the conversation along, Da Vinci hands us a device. What exactly is this? She says it's a stealth device. It's modeled after Robin Hood's Faceless King skill. She asks us just to think of it as a simple portable barrier. Mash says she's quite surprised by Da Vinci's efficiency, but she says the device itself has yet to be tested. And furthermore, it's likely to break if the atmospheric mana is too dense, or if there are extreme temperatures. So it seems that thanks to this Chinese Lostbelt having an unstable environment unlike the last two, this is about the only place it'll work.
Also, rather than precision, there's more emphasis placed on an area of effect. If anyone draws close to it, there is no effect. And ultimately, it's just a measure against long-distance surveillance.
Oh!
A loud rumbling is heard, and it looks like another rocket was fired out of Xianyang. Oh, it's alms! Our field has received alms! The villagers are out speaking with Qin Liang Yu. Alms have been sent to the village as a reward by the Emperor for them showing hospitality towards us.
How lucky for everyone. I also want to quickly be an adult and receive the alms too.
Kids don't receive any.
They do share some with us, but there's quite a lot of kids that don't get the same effects like adults. And I'm the same. If you want, should I share my portion with you? Here you go.
This is medicine.
Oh, if you drink this, your head'll feel all energized and good. Like in a dreamy state of mind.
Is that so? I'd definitely like to give it a try. Wait, Holmes? No, it's not for my personal curiosity. Well, there is that, but isn't this something that should be analyzed? This is something non-existent to our pan-human history, possibly a unique technology to this eternal Qin Empire. Holmes just wants the drugs for himself.
Alms. They don't appear to be money or items. I see. It's unlikely for money to be given since this farm village lacks any traces of economy. I do find it odd that there's no monetary activities despite the agricultural lifestyle.
Holmes suggests that they likely see repeated good harvests. And that's more likely their real reward. Upon analyzing this breed of the wheat, we found it to be an unprecedented case. No, it's debatable as to whether this is even wheat in the first place. First of all, this is without a doubt a breed that has been improved by man. Their seemingly primitive mode of agriculture may also be something way beyond our imaginations.
Because the farmers themselves don't even have a single tractor.
Farming that doesn't even require machines is what I believe to be likely.
Then how about we analyze both the medicine and the wheat? We should try and understand whatever we can.
Holmes decides that he'll do the job. And even though it appears uninteresting, now that we know where Koyanskaya is, he can devote himself to it. Isn't that Shi Huangdi's retainer?
Yeah! I was just about to take a short break from my surveys. I asked around and it appears that everyone's rest area is in that vehicle. My sincerest apologies for the trouble caused. Do you feel any discomforts here? Not at all, it's very pleasant here. The outdoor air is also great. This world it's unlike where we were before. It's a place where time can be safely spent beyond the confines of the vehicle.
Oh, foe!
Ah, that's a relief. My apologies. I'm Qin Liang Yu, a commander serving the Qin Empire.
Qin Liang Yu. Something you want to say, Holmes? If I'm not wrong, she's from the Ming Dynasty, right?
Ming? Ah, the history in your world is different, right. Qin quickly collapsed and different dynasties began to rise in power. The only ruler that I know is Shi Huangdi. In this world, he has continued his imperial reign the past 2,263 years.
Holmes says that, however, right now he has some questions for her, such as how has Qin Liang Yu managed to live for so long? She asks if her body is also immortal like Shi Huangdi's.
No, of course not. Immediately after the Bojo Rebellion, my merits were recognized, and I was permitted to rest in Lishan.
Was Zhang Yu also frozen in Lishan?
Zhang Yu? Oh, I see. So all of you call that thing Zhang Yu. That thing? No, it's a precious relic. It's one of the most remarkable ones amongst our Emperor's feats. You could call it a commemorative monument that truly represents the cornerstone of the Qin Empire's everlasting peace. But as you've seen, it's not a living soldier. I suppose you can call it an ancestor of all of the puppet soldiers.
Holmes continues his inquiries, after confirming that the puppet soldiers are now the active militia. Qin Liang Yu adds that only the Imperial Guards in Zhanyang are living soldiers. Those further inside are the elites that have been trained in Sage Taoism under Shi Huangdi's instructions. Though she highlights how war has been eliminated from this world, and there's usually no need for the commanders in Lishan to ever be reawakened. Oh, sorry. She says,
For wars and the like, I only knew of these things through written records even as a young child. I mean, war means clashing with the soldiers of foreign places, right? Qin has remained as this planet's country for the last 800 years. All that the spear I have mastered needs to manage are internal disputes.
World conquest was already completed in the 13th century.
Those other countries were no match for Qin, which had pioneered the implementation of gunpowder. The discovery of the Fusang tree also led to the great leaps in medical development. The Fusang tree was key in allowing the Emperor to change his body into its current imperishable frame.
Fusang tree? Jinlang Yu describes it as a crystallization of the secrets of Taoist immortality, a treasury of wisdom that harbors the mysteries of all kinds of life. She says the very outcome of Shi Huangdi's search for a technology of immortality from the hermit realm is that result.
Then, is Shi Huangdi really a hermit sage? No. When His Majesty obtained the Fusang tree, it was after he had extended his lifespan through the sacred frame. Having the functions to rule the people, His Majesty decided to remain in that metal form rather than transcend the cycle of life and death. However, freeing himself from the chains of lifespan after that search of 300 years to remain in command, it's His Majesty's very achievement. In the end, the Taoist secret medical techniques were used to contribute to the people's prosperity. All kinds of disease, hunger, pests, and the whatnot were eliminated, and those foreign enemies that stood before the Qin soldiers strengthened with the sage medicine were of no threat.
Biochemistry with origins in sage arts. Speaking of which, these fields around us, aren't they far too wide in comparison to the number of residents here?
Is that so? I wonder. Definitely they'll be busy during the harvest season. That said, the wheat will grow if left alone.
Oh? No, this is just my mere curiosity over how the farmers would have an excess harvest. Holmes diverts the conversation, and Xin Liang Yu mentions that most of the excess is brought to Shanyang. And Holmes asks if there's a large population over there as well.
No, of course not. Could it be that in your world, wheat is only cultivated for consumption? What do you mean by that?
Qin Yu describes how the wheat is used for raw materials for ethanol, which is the primary energy source of the Qin Empire. Green Eye Waifu is cute? Yeah, Chun-Li's pretty cute. Oh dear, they've completely fooled me. I only thought that they were wheat fields, but it appears they're biomass fuel.
I have heard that the world you all lived in has a completely different course of history. I can only sympathize, but... well, it must have been a very cruel world.
Why do you think so?
Well, you, and that accompanying young lady, too. I hope this doesn't sound too offensive, but... you two are in no way heroes that favor battle. Your eyes are extremely gentle. They're unbefitting of conflict.
Oh. Oh!
And yet, that equipment that you're carrying, it's evident to a skilled soldier that the handling of your armaments are addled by the troubled weight and stiffness. It's as if you were making yourself get used to your weapons as part of your bodies. Being forced to live in such a way at such a tender age. Based on that, it made me feel this way from the severity of your world.
Nah, it's cool. We're battle buddies. Mash and I high-five as an explosion goes off behind us. And then cry ourselves to sleep, but nobody talks about that part. Mordred is a bit downcast at Spartacus right now. She's asking why he's not acting like himself, since he'd usually be a lot more gung-ho about fighting back against oppression and freeing the people. That may be so, but... perhaps, but... even from the corner of my eye, there's people's smiles are just too bright.
Is that how it is?
What I once tried to rouse were people plagued by hunger and pain, people abused like beasts. Their smiles when they momentarily achieve peace and liberation. It was fleeting and yet heroic. But the people here, these people are completely different. Looking back, this village is peace filled with joy. It's something I've never seen before.
Well, that's how it is. This place has no invasions or war. It's totally different from our world where we raised our swords.
This body, and the blood that flowed from my fellow brothers. At the end, one day, perhaps it would allow for a scene where smiles like this could also be granted. That dream, it is here. Here is the ideal world that was so far away from me.
That kind of thing, huh?
Nah. Knight. Is it right for us to be here?
Huh? What are you saying now after all this? You haven't been getting along with the village people. Or haven't you been getting along with the village people?
Yes. However, there's an unshakable sense of something amiss. The battlefield of this Lostbelt. Alas, is there truly any place for us heroic spirits?
Mash just casually slipping into our tent at night.
Senpai, are you awake?
Mash, you couldn't sleep?
Yes, I'm still bothered by something from this afternoon.
Well, how about we go for a little walk? Get some fresh air. Mash agrees and says it'd be nice for us to go walk together.
It looks as though the villagers are having a festival tonight. I suppose those alms must have been something great to celebrate over. Even Holmes-san said that those must be luxury items like wine in this world.
It looks a lot like medicine to me, so I'm a little uneasy.
We may be off since we're all used to Holmes' son's bad habits. I wonder if Da Vinci-chan will be okay, though, since the investigation in the Shadow Border will be over the whole night.
But thanks to that, we've got a lot of free time.
Yes. Well, having time to do nothing is a luxury that we haven't had for quite a while. It really is peaceful, this Lostbelt.
What's wrong?
Senpai, I was once shown a world quite similar to this one before. A world of possibility shaped as one ideal form.
That was back at the Time Temple.
Yes, the King of Magic. No, geishas idealized human history without hardship. That time I was able to deny it. I felt that a world without any difficulty or pain was entirely wrong. But here, these lives of those villagers, it's exceedingly close to that world. It feels so fresh and you can smell the earth. The people here are not an illusion. These people are really alive.
But then they are our world's enemies.
Yes, I'm aware of that. Everything ends once we secure Koyanskaya and find the antidote. It's probably not the case. As long as we don't cut down the fantasy tree, our battle won't end. And consequently, this world will end as a prune phenomenon. When I think about that, I now know it's a precious moment to rest, but I just can't seem to do so.
This beautiful starlit sky. It's been a long time since we've seen one.
Master, step back!
Ah. In the end, the opportunity was wasted. I had underestimated the ease of a sneak attack, and I disregarded those that can execute it. I'm far too incapable myself.
Even if I wanted to end it in one strike, for someone to be captivated by the beautiful night sky, hiding my presence and to draw close.
Mash is shocked at the appearance of Prince Lan Ling, considering that at the moment we have a truce. The Prince of Lan Ling simply states that his master is not Shi Huangdi, and therefore he has no reason to sheath his blade. He goes on to say,
Being moved by beautiful things. I wish for such people with such kind hearts to live fortuitously. But alas, so long as I see you as my enemy on the battlefield, such a wish is impossible. If permitted, I would have liked all of this to end without giving any room for threats. Please forgive the awkwardness of myself. You're naive. You're far too naive, servant. Chinliang Yu-san.
Wow. I fucking butchered her name.
Chinliang Yu-san.
She says this is as far as the Prince of Lan Ling will go. She's been watching, and now that he's drawn his sword against us, despite the truth, she can't permit such a thing to pass. Furthermore, his sword is not fit for schemes in the dark, and his master has little experience for battle.
Silence. I will not permit any insults to my master. However, if I treat those words as a death penalty, it means I need not reserve my sword. You have my thanks, apocryphal commander. If it's you, then I can brandish my blade without hesitation.
Oh, sorry.
She says, I've stalled you. Your opportunity for victory is lost, Prince of Lanling.
So, that's how it is. Even if it is nighttime, something as clamorous as this would catch my attention. You are listening, right? Akata Hinako. This riot, how will you explain this? That's the first Emperor speaking, by the way, chat.
Akata-san. Even if you cannot understand it now, I can only raise that all of this is very much for Chin's peace.
Ah, is that so? No matter what, you have intention of submitting to my authority. Now then, what shall I do? In your case, even something like beheading you will not instill fear properly. To punish you, I must seize something else away from you. Oh shit. Ah, of course. Kuaiji Zero model. Come here.
Yes, Your Majesty. Have you called for me?
Zhang Yu? Humu. The gold elixir in your chest. Right now, pull it out and crush it under your foot.
At once, as you command.
Please wait! Please kindly wait! Just that. Please spare him from that.
Oh, what a good cry. Do you really have that much attachment to that machine?
Akata-san. Please have forgiveness on me. I've overstepped my boundaries as your servant. I'll pay any price. That's why please spare this man.
Those words. Do not ever forget them. If you rebel against me, I will carve fear far greater than death into your heart. Am I clear?
Yes! I will not act on my own accord again.
Qin Liang Yu, justice has been served. That woman is no longer any threat.
Understood. Good, Adono. Kindly return to your camp and rest for the night. Senpai.
Let's go, Mash.
Yes.
Once again, I must ask you.
Yes.
Who is this Zhang Yu?
What I am about to tell you is another history that you do not know of.
Could it perhaps be from a time
Of His Majesty Shi Huangdi not obtaining the sacred frame and his empire collapsing?
Yes. After His Majesty went into hiding, everything in his plan to seek immortality was buried in the dark. Even you, who was kept hidden in the Kuwaiji Commandery, hidden laboratories, were of no exception. However, there was someone who captured you and booted you up. His name was Zhang Liang, later known as one of the rival warlords that schemed an uprising against Qin.
I was... by rebels.
Zhang Liang understood that you were not human, but he wanted your superhuman abilities for his ambitions. He disguised you in public as his nephew. Zhang was taken from his family name. You were named Ji, and you were given the courtesy name of Yu.
Certainly. This warframe was implemented much later after my awakening. My form in the initial stage was simply in a human shape, but...
Nobody doubted Zhang Liang's lies. There was no way to doubt them. There was no way for the people to understand that you were a machine made by Shi Huangdi as a copy of Tai Yi Zhenran's gold elixir lotus.
Therefore, I was not installed, but as a human.
There's no way to suspect your behavior, and fear your abnormal strength as long as you remain in the form of a human. And so you, with the name Zhang Yu, became one of the greatest Chinese generals recorded in history. With no one ever realizing your origins and identity until the very end.
There is a contradiction in that explanation. If this Zhang Liang continued to keep my origins as a secret, how is it that you are aware of this truth? Who on earth are you?
I am just a wanderer. I'm a visitor to this Lostbelt, all for the sake of meeting you once again, Lord Zhang Yu.
Ooh. Yes, the dots above the characters are for emphasis. They are meant to be things that you pay extra attention to. For example, the dots above the characters in that last line was all for the sake of meeting you again. Those were the things to pay close attention to. All right, moving along to Section 8. Was Zhang Yu also a robot in the normal timeline? It seems to be, according to her explanation.
I see. So it's like that.
Holmes calls what just happened another piece of the puzzle. Oh, by the way, this is Section 8. The Land at Peace was the title for this section. Sorry, guys. So Holmes calls what had just happened another piece of the puzzle. He says with this, he can now begin to see the entire picture. Although Okta should have prioritized the protection of the fantasy tree's cryptor, she kept the information hidden from Shi Huangdi. She independently acted to get rid of Caldia, and furthermore was forced to swear fealty to him once more when this was discovered and Zhang Yu was sentenced to execution.
Although I was also surprised to see Akata-san so ferocious when we first arrived at this Lostbelt. She looked so lost in fear at that time. And that, at that time, rather than being shocked, I felt like it was too painful to look at. When I was in Caldia, I really didn't know anything at all about her.
With regards to Akata while at Caldia, yes. Da Vinci says that she and Holmes have been trying to salvage whatever data they could from the server's backup. But all that she can find is information that stinks of a cover-up.
A disguise, a cover-up, even though she's Caldia's staff.
If you were to compare it to a painting, it would be one where the brush was wielded with a mechanical touch, so as to kill the painting of all of its personality.
Yes, there was no noise or error at all. For normal people, there will definitely be the accumulation of useless information in the traces of their lives. However, none of this can be found in the records associated with Akata Hinako. It's as if she lived her life in a way solely in order to pull the wool over the eyes of others. So, something like a perfect alibi. Excellent! An interjection after my own heart, Watson.
There's nothing strange. If you turn it around, then that means there's nothing true. Yeah, the profile. There's no human volition that can be felt from her history at all. And to be frank, there's one more thing that's pretty strange.
Her introducer, Mars Billy Animosphere. The person in charge of compatibility testing, Mars Billy Animosphere. The person in charge of scheduling health checks and interviews, Mars Billy Animosphere. Well, the data reported on her were all provided by his ID alone. They say that from a security perspective, this is very suspicious. After all, this way Mars Billy would have been able to easily tamper with the data if he wanted to. Da Vinci wonders if the circumstances under which Hinako came to... about the circumstances under which Hinako came to Caldia at all. She wonders whether or not she was chosen for the A-Team due to her race-shifting capabilities and who she is in the first place. She says that now all of this is cast under doubt. Holmes goes on to say everything about the personality that is Akata Hinako seems to have been returned to a blank slate. There is the possibility that she might have different objectives and motivations from the other cryptors then. Whether it's the defense of the Lostbelt or the relationship to the one in power, both are secondary to her. Even when compared to the battle with Caldia, she prioritized the safety of another person more. That person would undoubtedly be Zhang Yu. Now indeed, who is that? Who exactly is that person?
Although Zhang Yu was the name used in pan-human history, here he seems to be called differently.
It was definitely Kuaji Type 0 that they called him. Kuaji, Da Vinci says that she had to run a check in the she ran a check in the database, and it refers to a land connected with Zhang Yu. After Shi Huangdi died, Zhang Liang, who was uncle to Zhang Yu, raised the flag of rebellion against Qin in that land. She says it could be said to be the starting point for Zhang Yu's career as a general. Well, regardless of his true identity, he's ultimately in existence of this Lostbelt. It's still unclear why Akata Hinako came from the pan-human history, and why she would be so into him that she would abandon her other goals.
It's love, isn't it? Love at first sight, that's what it is. Foolish women will throw everything away for a short-sighted reason.
You know, you're gonna lose the trust of the female staff with that sort of statement, Gordov-kun.
The only female in this room is Mash, you borderline lolly.
Damn, the borderline lolly.
But it is true that I am disappointed in you.
Eh? Really?
Now, let's leave that conversation where it is, and let's return to the topic at hand. Holmes says there's still many other problems we'll have to solve. And Da Vinci says such is persuading some rather hard-headed people. Gordoff with the hottest take and zero self-awareness? Yeah, Gordoff. Why is it that you were poisoned again? Whose fault was it again? Let me just think about it a little bit. What was the reason again?
My skin crawls from thinking about the idea of getting along with that Shi Huangdi for even a second.
I know, right?
Negotiations? Oh, that will not do. The type of battle is the one that oppressors are most skilled at. They will use tempting conditions to confuse the weak, and then press obedience in the form of consent. Do not be deceived, O detective.
Holmes says in the view of our conditions, there's no other way. He's saying at the very least, we must secure Koyanskaya first. And furthermore, ideally, we'd be able to maintain a truce with Shi Huangdi until we've defeated Akata. After all, Akata Hinako would most likely fight us to the very end. After all, it had gotten to the stage where she had tried to ambush and kill us of her own judgment. Da Vinci says right now her relationship with the Emperor isn't smooth, but there's still a lot that we don't know about the connection between those two. And there's always the possibility that she might be able to convince Shi Huangdi to be her ally once more.
Before music in Master's fate bows to the evil poison, first defeat Shi Huangdi and reap the fantasy tree. Can we not contend in battle in such an order?
Would that really be alright? Right now, should we make an enemy of the Qin Empire, what awaits us is but to be besieged on all sides. No matter where it falls, Koyanskaya's existence will become a wild card. If we face Shi Huangdi in a final battle without having obtained the antidote, it's checkmate. It's already checkmate. If Shi Huangdi needs only kill Koyanskaya to silence her, and Mr. Gouda will be shackled forever.
My life is at stake too. My life?
Yes, our ultimate object is to defeat the fantasy tree, as we must erase this Lostbelt eventually. At that time, facing off with Shi Huangdi will be inevitable. Please think of the consolation at this stage as something temporary. Or conciliation, sorry. Is Spartacus one of those functionally insane but spouts wisdom through his rambling berserkers, or just insane in this Lostbelt? Spartacus is someone who is insane about one particular thing, and that is about oppression and liberation. And he will go to no ends to stop someone he sees as an oppressor from oppressing people. That's where his berserker insanity goes. Other than that, he's perfectly capable of talking and whatnot. He has pinpoint insanity.
So in short, pretend to be their ally for now and stab them in the back later, right?
I can totally do that. That sort of trick is something I used to discuss a lot with Agravain.
No. Compromise is the first step to obedience, and at the end of obedience lies only slavery. My master's fight must always be one of rebellion. Rebel against pain, rebel against adversity, and rebel against fate to grasp victory!
Man, you're overthinking it. It's just a tactic. A tactic. Isn't it fine just to go along as... Isn't it just fine as long as we get to beat up the ones we hate at the end of it? Think of rebellion as a reward when the time comes. Just endure it for now. You love it, don't you? Enduring?
Everyone, are you truly fine with this?
Once, I had deviated from wholeheartedly thinking that there was naught but to kill, and so my defeat was decided. No, but this is not a fight following my strategies. Gouda has Gouda's own way of fighting.
I'm sorry.
If you're going to ask that of me while looking so poorly, well, then it can't be helped. The recklessness of the battle with Zhang Yu has placed a strain on you, hasn't it?
Holmes says it's beginning to get a bit stuffy in the tent and decides to leave for some fresh air.
Holmes-san. He flashed a gaze at myself and Senpai, and also Jinkei-san. Just what does he... What is it, Holmes-san? What is it that you clearly wanted to talk about?
It seems that, Holmes doesn't want to let Spartacus hear what he's about to say, which is why he flashed us that look to go out. He says, though, Jinkei should be able to remain calm here. However, he says to keep his voices low lest Shi Huangdi also overhear. The analysis of the medication, that is, those alms, has largely been completed, and it far exceeds what I had imagined. Its function is as a psychoactive drug, is in fact nothing more than a side effect. The drug's true purpose is to boost the body's immune system. No, it'd be better to say that it strengthens it. Though it has dramatic efficacy, the burden on the user is nearly nil, as long as a certain condition isn't satisfied. This is clearly not in the realm of modern medicine. Even the magecraft of pan-human history would find it a difficult task to synthesize such an efficacious drug. It's truly a product that can only be found in this lost belt, where medicine and chemistry have the sage arts as their foundation.
I see. So you're saying that elixirs are being mass-produced? Such a convenient thing is given out to all the citizens whenever there's a celebration.
Yes, and it appears that by taking this drug, any illness can be prevented. It's likely that these villagers have never had a cold or a fever in their entire lives. It's truly an ideal all-purpose drug.
Hold on 1 second. Earlier you said that there was a certain condition that needed to be made.
Ah, that would be aging. When hormonal secretion surpasses a certain value, the drug will function as a lethal anesthetic. It has an efficacy a few thousand times that of pentobarbital. Wait a minute, that's...
I see. I did find it strange. There's not even a single elderly person to be seen in this village.
This is not a side effect. This is clearly induced into the drug by intention.
Intentionally? Doesn't that mean they're being poisoned to death? When the hormonal secretion surpasses a certain value, so once they grow old, they automatically die.
That is correct. From the perspective of our values, distributing such a drug would be tantamount to mass murder. However, Buddhism regards birth, aging, illness, and death as the four sufferings. If you regard both age and illness as the same, then this drug can be said to remove the suffering of aging from men. Although I cannot declare whether or not universal bioethics will be established in all worlds under all conditions, the wheat in this field have undergone a high level of genetic modification. Whether it's in terms of resistance to disease or regarding its yield, this wheat is far superior to natural species. If you cultivate such a product, you will likely be able to live out your life without worrying about food.
And with full bellies, you will not think of taking from others.
There's no economic activity, and no disparity between the rich and the poor arising from it. As for any turmoil and violence, it is as you already know. As far as we can imagine, those that live here don't know the suffering of life. And at the end, they die peacefully because of the drug, because they can realize that their bodies are aging, before they can realize that their bodies have begun aging. With regards to the removal of human suffering, could this not be called a world which delivers terrifyingly efficient results to that end?
But, that's... Yes, indeed. This cannot be called a human's way of life. It's the same as domestic livestock. This is the conclusion which Shi Huangdi, which that dictator arrived at. Ah, it makes total sense. The statesman who stopped being human wouldn't treat the people as humans.
Between this Chinese Lostbelt and pan-human history, Spartacus claimed that whichever would survive should be decided by a fight. If those words cause doubt to arise within you, then think of this alms medication. In this world, the happiness of humans is prescribed in a very simple way. That's right. As you may be forced to make a decision one day. Here, let me bend my usual principle and make a disclosure. Although this cannot be called a deduction, merely a thought within the realm of speculation.
Holmes-san.
Why are the ley lines of this Lostbelt unable to activate the spiritual foundation graph?
Is it related to the drug that we're talking about?
Although there's no direct connection, it bolsters the hypothesis. In the first place, heroic spirits are an aspect of Alaya, the collective subconscious of humanity. They can be defined as a function which safeguards the prosperity of the human order. Although there are many means and conditions by which servants are summoned, without exception they all operate under the great underlying principle of answering a wish. But consider this. If there is a world where no human bears the sentiment of wishing for something, if there is a world where those humans have prospered for hundreds of years...
So that's it. It wouldn't be surprising for it to be disconnected from the Throne of Heroes, becoming unable to communicate. From the beginning, there were no heroic spirits in this world. After all, heroes necessary for battles such as Qin Lang Yu are still living in this day. A world where heroic spirits are unnecessary. That's this kind of world, is that what you're saying?
Holmes says that, that's how this is. Being freed from suffering, the people here also wish for nothing more. In a world where no one harbors a wish, servants can't appear. This is the reasoning that Holmes suggests to us.
Thank you for telling me. Now my resolve is unwavering. I will defeat this Shi Huangdi. I will end this ugly reign, and to that end I will be taking any detour. This is why Gouda's antidote must take priority for now. Now that my will and resolve are firm, even if I have to keep this a secret, it will not be difficult. Thank you very much, Jinkei-san. How is your progress?
Qinlang Yu questions the soldiers. They say they've inspected all blocks in the vehicle. She reminds them not to leave anything unrecorded, as the fate of herself is resting on their shoulders.
The Shadow Border, a product of a history different from ours. The moon, alas, is no drinker of wine. Listless, my shadow creeps about at my side. Yet with the moon as a friend, and the shadow as slave, I must make merry before the spring is spent. Boy, what exactly? This is a poem. It was made by a poet named Li Bai. And who exactly taught you this poem? Well, that was...
Shi Hongdi says that his circuits are feeling good from the vast amount of data being transferred by Lang Yu's men from the Shadow Border.
Can that otherworld equipment be analyzed?
Who exactly do you think I am? By expending all of the calculating power of this sacred frame, the analysis of merely a single vehicle is but an easy task. Still, with that said, this is truly amazing. To think that they stuffed so many functions into those dimensions, it's quite unbelievable. Qinlang Yu reports in and requests an audience with the Emperor. Mumu, what is it?
Yes, actually, a child from the village was reciting a poem.
Oh, no.
I was told that he was enlightened into it by those from Caldia.
I see. Caldia is Ru. And that particular term means learned, scholarly.
Precisely. That is undoubtedly the deeds of Ru.
Ooh. Of Ru, we must take down the Baru. All right, section number 9. The Morning Star of Rebellion.
Shocking. Terrible. Spartacus. He is missing.
Also above shocking and terrible says emergency, emergency.
What?
Oh?
And that's not it. Several villagers have vanished as well. The remaining villagers have reported that they saw Spartacus leading them off towards the capital.
Oh! If Shi Hongdi found them, it could only be seen as a prelude to a rebellion. Is he an idiot? Is that muscle man a true blue idiot?
Well, you can shorten Berserker to Berk. To Baka.
Bazaka to Baka. There we go. It's better that way.
That's just how he is. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't behave any differently.
Hey, do something about this, Gura. It was in the records for Rome. He was once a servant that followed you.
Well, Spa-san is always about freedom at all times.
Hey, why are you having that as-expected confident look on your face? Is the command spell on your hand just for show? Are they tattoo seals? Now's the time to be decisive, you fool.
Mr. Gouda, this is where you must decide. Holmes says that we could use our command spell to enforce our will. It's part of a parcel in contracting with a berserker. Says though it may be demoralizing, this is a situation that we will inevitably face. In fact, you've been able to manage the servants so well without relying on compulsion. It's a miracle itself. I respect that intent of yours, but...
No, wait a minute. Mordred? Even if you bind him with a command seal, you won't get his obedience. You'd only be restraining his body. That's what a heroic spirit named Spartacus is like. A command spell's the only thing you can't use. If you do, that guy will lose all the meaning he had in answering humanity's call and running all the way here from the throne.
Foe.
Please, Master, can't you just let me take care of this? I should be able to make him stop in a way he can accept.
And how exactly would you do that?
Of course, by giving him a good beatdown. That guy's propelled by his knees, his legs. As long as they still scream out to resist, he'll never stop. That's why we should beat him up until his legs give way. And when he can't even stand anymore, then he'll finally be convinced. This should be ended by battle.
Is that really more effective than using a command seal?
Ah, for sure. I can guarantee it.
Well, I find the concept hard to grasp at such short notice, but... What do you think, Mr. Gouda? As Master, this is something for you to decide. I'll count on you, Mordred.
Ah, leave it to me.
Foe! Jinkei volunteers to go with us as well. She says she feels partly responsible for Spartacus. Is this all right, Miss Jinkei? Are you sure you don't wish to just go along with Spartacus as well?
Well, truthfully, somewhat. I'm kind of jealous that Spartacus can manifest in the class of Berserker.
Because that way reason can be abandoned for one to act solely by instinct.
No, it's because even though he's a Berserker, he's blessed with such an excellent master. As a fellow heroic spirit, I'm quite jealous. Neja, you're in charge of watching this place. The shadow borders our lifeline, so we can't let anything happen to it, alright? Leave it to me, awaiting your safe return. Yes, let us go bring Spartacus-san back.
The villagers are currently questioning whether or not it's alright for them to really leave their village. Spartacus assures them it's quite alright. No restrictions, no reasoning, no regulations could stop them from seeking freedom. He says that their paths lay ahead of their ever-stepping feet.
But, you know, we were only granted these fields because we're beloved by the Son of Heaven. At least that's what we were taught. Should the ones in power treat you with the oppression that is their love, then it only stands to reason that in return your love should be expressed in the form of rebellion.
That's a bit hard to understand.
As we talk while we walk, you will eventually understand. Now let us hurry to the capital of the oppressor.
The villagers say that they've heard of something called art in the capital, and they wonder if it's similar to that poem thing that Jin Kei had taught them.
I want to hear lots and lots more poems. I'd like to see the capital, too.
Indeed. Then let us advance, while we sing loudly the victory hymn of liberation.
Wait! Don't think that things will go that smoothly, you rebellious dumbass. Isn't it a bit heartless to go on a trip without saying a word? Eh?
The medicine for this sickness residing within Gouda is something that I, Spartacus, shall be like a hammer to grab. Should you doubt my righteousness, you can just sit aside and wait. I shall embrace the oppressor, Shi Huangdi. His location is known. Then I only need single-mindedly advance toward Shanyang.
Stop it, Spartacus. Bad. Bad boy. Get a spritz bottle.
It is not that I do not understand your doubt. Master Gouda, it is because you have yet to cultivate your true strength. Thus, therefore, I must show you the truly righteous way through my actions. The love that is true rebellion, which will smash and fell all that stands in one's way.
He really isn't listening to anything, as I expected. I guess I'll have to communicate him by beating him up. Mordred, you said he'd listen after we bring him to his knees. Yeah, and? Yeah, and? Far from being brought to his knees, he's just getting more and more excited the more we hit him. I don't want to say that, but it's really giving me the creeps. What do we do? It's really fun, ain't it? That bottomless fighting spirit. I'm getting the chills just from being bathed in it. Wow, you're a berserker too, after all. You must be lying about being a saber.
Oh, such pleasure. This adversity, this pain, the strength of indomitability is welling forth like a spring.
Gambate, Spartacus!
But why is Mr. Spartacus squabbling with those girls? Beats me.
At this rate, Master's body won't hold out.
But... yeah, this is pretty bad, but Spartacus and Mordred-san look like they're having so much fun.
Please, be more concerned about yourself. Your body temperature is already at 38 degrees.
That's a heck of a fever.
Emergency! Emergency!
Neja says that now is not the time to fight. Foe! Foe! Foe!
And Fosan as well. What's going on here? Why are you here?
Okay, Neja reports that Qin Lang Yu has betrayed us and stolen the Shadow Border. Uh-oh. Mordred shouts at Neja for not fighting back. Jinkei tells her to calm down, though. Neja would have wanted to stay behind too, but Holmes must have deemed it more important to convey the spiritual foundation graph to us.
Naturally, the enemies must have used the Shadow Border as their shield. If you rebelled, they would destroy it together with their defenders. A common tactic of the oppressors.
Which is it? Are you rampaging or are you calm?
Whoa. Whoa.
However, even if we do have the spirit graph, we can't use it in this Lostbelt. If the ley lines of the land don't answer, then we can't store up the necessary electrical energy. Ah, it's definitely bad that the border got taken.
Hey, Shi Huangdi, can you hear me? Are you listening?
Ah. All of the land is my garden, and thus all noise reach my ears, even if undesirable.
This wasn't the deal!
Indeed. A god's words are absolute, and hence bind even themselves. However, I am a man, and an administrator. It is only natural that I place more weight upon my country compared to a promise. Thus, I have taken the Shadow Border, and I will exterminate all of you, for you have been judged to be harmful to the people. Why? What did we do to the people of the village? Unaware, unreserved, you are truly followers of Ru. Ah, I see. You are definitely Shi Huangdi after all. Even a span of 2,200 years hasn't changed you. No, you've become even more vicious. What exactly are you saying, Jinkei-san? This guy, he must have been angered by me teaching children letters. Just for that, he's branded all of us as Ruists. The 5 constants of benevolence, righteousness, etiquette, knowledge, and integrity. By the odes is the mind aroused. By propriety is character established. By music is finish received. It is a way of life that tyrant cannot help but hate. As Ru, you have led astray the masses living in blissful ignorance. Ru is truly a malicious and infectious disease. You are the focus of infection, something that must be eliminated at soonest haste.
Do you fear the masses gaining knowledge so much that you would equate it to a disease, O tyrant?
Those with knowledge lose their way, imprisoned by their obsessions, comparing themselves to others. If left be, they cloud the world in hatred. In my eternal paradise, that hideousness, individualistic ego has been abolished. Ignorance is why the people live in peace and health. You Ruis who dare to enlighten them, how unabashedly arrogant can you be? It's only convenient for you because it's easier to rule over the ignorant masses. In your world, where Ruis have proliferated, just how long-lasting is the peace that has ensued? The masses with knowledge have their own way, claiming themselves to be wise and blaming others, and in the end there is only an endless cycle of war. What spreads is only lament. A pandemonium where the prayers of the people are enough to give birth to the counterforce known as heroic spirits. The crushing hell, just imagining it is enough to make one's hair stand up on end.
If you have any objections, you may voice them. Our world is one where all can know mercy.
That's...
Although there were more proper methods than obtaining the shadow border through trickery, hatred won out. You must be burnt until not even bones are left, buried until not any traces of you are left. It's Zhang Yu! Now, Kawaji Type 0, this is a new decree. Annihilate these Ruists. As you wish.
Hey, Gouda. Should I apologize to you for feeling sorry for those people who didn't even know of poems or writings?
Absolutely not. Be proud of yourself, Jinkei.
Ah! The answer is the path that we built. Acknowledge our mistakes and correct them. That is the compromise, which is forgiveness. Know that that is what this world lacks. This guy's really strong. He saw through all of my moves. Strange. That's strength. Not just a difference in hardware. Yeah, he can see it. He's predicting all of our moves in advance. Bullshit! Even Father's instinct skill isn't that strong. Right. This isn't a prediction due to battle skill. It's in a completely different league. It's an ability much closer to partial clairvoyance.
My calculations have foretold your destruction. Resign yourselves, barbarians.
If you can read the future, then you should know this. For us, giving up isn't a possibility at all.
Indeed. I have foretold an even greater difficulty.
What the hell? I have come to lend you a hand, Zhang Yu Dono. The Prince of Lanling and Akata-san. This time, I'll definitely put you in your graves, Mash and Gouda of Caldia.
Oh? I thought you would be off sulking. But have you decided to serve me once more, Akata Hinako?
As long as your majesty understands the threat that Caldia is, then I will follow your will.
Ah, I see. You didn't want Zhang Yu to fight alone. That was quite tactless of me to ask. Very well. Work as much as you like. However, there isn't much time. There is no need to be impatient for a death blow. Know that it is fine just to shatter their legs. Akata acknowledges his order. Mordred shouts that the situation's getting much worse, and the longer that we wait here, the further away the border is going to get. In the border, Qinlang Yu is ordering her troops to widen the distance, while Kawaji Type 0 is engaging the enemy. In this situation, there's nothing we can do but just sit here and watch.
Since the Shadow Border is a wheeled vehicle, the enemy can just drag it along.
They say that thankfully Neja managed to escape, and it looks like Qin have yet to realize the importance of the spiritual foundation graph.
If you are planning anything, then don't. If I see any suspicious movements, I will immediately cut you down.
I had thought you to be a proud and mighty warrior, but to think you would resort to such cowardly trickery.
The words of a Ruist will not deceive me. Knowing that you are Ruist, I also know that anything coming out of that mouth is nothing but bewitching poison. But we're not even Ruists.
Lang Yu is unshaken by the denial. She says although she doesn't know whether they're called Ruists in our world, all that would try to enlighten the people of this land are considered Ru. Now.
What can be acknowledged by giving knowledge to the people?
Or what can be accomplished, I mean.
Reading books that will only lead to an end of deception, lies, fanaticism, and obsession. These are the devil's deeds which make one lose sight of their true self. You are rebels who only speak of ideals, inciting the people to further your own ambitions. I will absolutely not forgive you.
Da Vinci says that we have no such ambitions, and we merely shared knowledge as a form of exchange. This angers Lang Yu even more. She says that she demands to know what end the people would arrive at after being deceived by Ru. Shi Huangdi says that this is enough, and he orders them to retreat. The Prince of Lanling objects, saying that we're still standing, but the Emperor tells him that he will not be blamed for failing to defeat them. He states that we should be retreating now. They should be retreating now, lest they be caught up in what's about to happen. All of them acknowledge and leave. Fo. This leaves all of our servants surprised, thinking that we were just kind of let go. Spartacus says the Emperor must be plotting something that only an oppressor could come up with.
Reviewing conversation. There is not much time. Could that mean... There's only one reason for all Allied troops to retreat. An indiscriminate attack. It must be headed towards this region.
Ah, if you have figured it out, then I'll just tell you. Just now, I have purged an unneeded payload from the Great Wall and sent it on a descending trajectory. Of course, the landing spot is right on top of you. You have approximately 3 minutes until it will arrive.
Seriously? What the hell are you thinking, you big lump? The people are gonna get caught up in it, you know?
You think far too highly of yourselves. It is the other way around. So that you would get caught up in it, I ordered my soldiers to hurt you until you could not stand.
Then... From the very beginning, it was all to destroy the village.
That is correct. This is the burying of Ru. Any land where Ru has spread is to be discarded. This oppressor, to think so lightly of his people's lives. Fool! The land is my flesh, and the people are my blood. How can one like you even begin to understand my pain in having to burn them myself? However, the parts infected by Ru cannot be left untreated. Before the poison can circulate to the rest of the body, there is no choice but to remove it.
So this is... Shi Huangdi.
Now, run if you want. However, it is too late to evacuate the people in the village. At least after you turn tail and flee, it would be good if you watched their end from a distance. Witness the ending brought about by your scattering of Rue.
Damn it! The bastard's thinking is just way too different. He'd actually prioritize killing civilians over the battle?
MASH confirms visuals of something that looks like a meteorite descending from the Great Wall. If it lands, the entire area will likely be affected. The farmers start shouting in panic that it's the Star of Omen, signifying the Son of Heaven's wrath. They say it's rumored to befall those who would turn their back on the Emperor's blessings. The villagers are confused as to why he could be angry. They ask if it's because of the recited poems, or perhaps because they're headed to the capital.
No. It was no failing of yours. Men naturally seek the dream of freedom. Ah, I understand it now. Why I was summoned to this land. It was all for the sake of fighting this great oppression.
Spartacus-san.
Gouda, the one who has yet to become an oppressor. Right now it is time to demonstrate your authority to Spartacus.
What should I do?
Impose your command seal upon me. And then you need merely say one word. One command. Jump.
I see. Crying warmonger.
What the hell? Jinkei says that Spartacus is planning to use his noble phantasm to counter this destructive power of the meteorite. It converts his power of the attack received into a devastating counterattack. So if Spartacus can make contact before the meteorite reaches the ground, it can be stopped with equal strength.
Hey, wait a second. Then what? He's just gonna smash himself into the meteorite?
This is a great tribulation. This great adversity. It is truly fitting to show off the heights of my rebellion.
That's reckless. Your Saintcraft won't be able to endure that.
You can't know until you try. But there is no longer any time for hesitation. The Star of Omen falls even now.
Senpai!
With my command seal, I order you. Jump, Spartacus!
Oh! Boiling! It's boiling! This is the combustion of the bond between me and my master!
He really jumped!
Oh!
It's not just leg power, but an outrageous magical energy emission. It's already like a jet.
Oh, at a time like this, truly, my legs are rebelling against gravity. Oh men, turn your eyes to the sky in awe. This fight is truly the height of liberation. The great irrationality which overturns great adversity. The wings of freedom. If the sky is blotted out by the star of oppression, then I shall be the morning star of rebellion which shines upon this earth.
No way! He went head first! That bastard's gonna charge into it from the front. He should at least take a defensive posture. No, he's prepared for the consequences. By taking the utmost damage, his noble phantasm could put out the utmost power.
Such pleasure, such delight! This pain is indeed my glory. My life, my love will explode right here! War cry, overload!
Impossible! A surface-to-air weapon? They shouldn't have brought something like...
No. That is the shining brilliance of a heroic spirit. Burn this into your eyes, Han Xin. This is the way of those who shall become the enemies of the Qin army from this point forward.
Whoa! Amazing. The vast mass which was falling down. It was vaporized without a trace. He actually did it. But where'd Spartacus go? Right there, he's falling. Shh, that damned idiot.
Oh, Knight of Rebellion, did you stop my fall with those thin arms of yours?
Stop joking around! Everyone was watching you. Everyone whom you incited thoughtlessly. What'd happen if you had just crashed on your head, huh? At least drop feet first. You weren't falling, you were descending, no matter what shape you're in. If not, it's no good. Those wounds. Yes, Spartacus's Saint Graph is already...
As expected, a manifesto is heavy. It's just like the manliest man of the Round Table of Camelot to be able to hold one up.
You goddamned idiot, just who is a man? If you're gonna play a fool, then at least say it with a face which is more deserving of a beatdown. With how you are now, I don't even know where to hit.
Punching me anywhere is fine. If it is your fist, then I'm sure it will feel good.
Spartacus, are you going to die?
I am not going to die. Spartacus will never die. If in your small breast there resides an unflappable will, a torch of rebellion that will never burn out, then that is where I live, my friend.
Mr. Spartacus, in order to protect us, he...
I won't cry. I can't cry. After all, even through all the pain, through all the hardship, Mr. Spartacus was always smiling.
Boy, you...
That's why I'll become strong too. I'll smile and endure through everything so that one day I can become someone Spartacus too. And that's why Spartacus isn't gone. As long as I and someone after me keeps on smiling. I see. So this is his rebellion, huh? The spiritual foundation graft. It's changing. Getting very hot. What's this? Could it be broken? No, that's not it. This is... The ley lines are responding. That can't be. It shouldn't be able to work in this Lostbelt. So that's it. A prayer was born into this world. Hope now springs forth in the hearts of these people. And that's become a path connected to the Throne of Heroes. Yeah. This place is no longer isolated from the Throne of Heroes. The heroic spirits are coming. In answer to the hopes of those without a voice. Bible thumped Spartacus. I'm glad everyone saluted Spartacus, chat. Thank you. This air smells nostalgic. The silhouettes of the mountains in the distance look familiar too. It looks that I've accepted a summoning to my homeland, but... What an inexplicable sight. There are no signs of the chaos of war in sight at all. There's no one around who looks like a master either. In other words, we are stray servants, it seems. What a pity. I was longing to have a meeting that started off with me saying, "I ask of you," or something like that. Now then, what should I point out first? Your figure is... What are you looking at? Of course, I am Lu Bu Feng Shan. Pardon? There is no heroic spirit other than the flying general Lu Bu Feng Shan who would be summoned together with his Cheng Gong Gong Tai, would there? No, but you're red hair, are you not? Amongst men, Lu Bu. Amongst heroes, red hair. This form came to be because of my glorious martial valor through the union of man and horse, known to every household. In other words, this is the so-called innocent monster. Oh yeah, there is a carrot here. Where is the delicious carrot? So you are red hair after all. But I'm Lu Bu, though. Rip in pieces, Spartacus. You truly were the morning star of rebellion. God, what a good chapter. What a good section. That's a really good one. Unexpected heavy feels for Spartacus. And up next, we will be moving on to Section 10.